change to tomorrow's business. This is an issue of grave importance for the future of our country. Just like the referendum, there are strongly held and equally legitimate views on both sides. For that reason, I can confirm that this will be a free vote on this side of the House.
Well, the leader of the opposition, Jeremy Corbyn, says the Prime Minister has failed, and he will again try to get MPs to back Labour's Brexit plan.
The government has been defeated again by an enormous majority, and they must now accept their deal, their proposal. The one the Prime Minister has put is clearly dead and does not have the support of this House. And quite clearly, no deal must be taken off the table. We've said that before, and we'll say that again. But it does mean the House has got to come together with a proposal that could be negotiated. The Labour Party has put that proposal, and we will put that proposal again.
Let's get more from TRT World's Europe correspondent Simon McGregor-Wood in Westminster. And in the final analysis, Simon, Theresa May failed to win over MPs to her promises of a new, improved deal with legally binding changes.
Yes, the last-ditch efforts, the 11th hour dash to Strasbourg, the drama of the late-night press conference with Jean-Claude Juncker, delivering what they both believed were meaningful, legally binding assurances that the Irish backstop, this arrangement to keep the Irish border open in the event of problems with the future trade talks, would somehow be limited in scale and scope, simply failed to convince a significant number of Conservative MPs. I think the killer blow came when a man called Geoffrey Cox, the government's senior legal advisor, the Attorney General no less, stood up in the House of Commons and said it is improved, it does make this sort of potential of being trapped in this arrangement less likely, but ultimately it could still happen. And I think on the basis of that advice, the usual suspects, if you like, on the backbenches of the Conservative Party, those who've always been agitating for a clean break from the European Union, and, of course, the DUP, the small, hardcore Irish party from Northern Ireland, decided on the basis of that advice that they simply couldn't change their mind and vote for the deal. There were a few Conservative MPs who did change their mind, but nowhere near enough. 149 the margin of defeat, an improvement if you're desperate on the 230 back in January, but still I think a pretty significant humiliation for Theresa May.
So what happens now? Another vote tomorrow and then potentially a third vote on Thursday on extending Article 50?
That's right. This plan for two additional votes was laid out last week. I was half expecting some additional drama, perhaps a resignation, perhaps some dramatic call for a general election. We haven't got that yet. So it's back to Plan A. We'll come back tomorrow. MPs will get what's called a free vote. They won't be asked by their party chiefs to vote in a particular way on whether or not they want to leave the European Union anyway without a deal on March the 29th. It is assumed that there's a pretty comfortable majority against that. In that event, we'll come back on Thursday, where MPs will get the option of voting on whether they want to extend Article 50, in other words, ask the European Union for more time to try and work out a deal. It is assumed that's what the scenario will be, but it's interesting to note that we've had some pretty chilly response already from EU officials. In Brussels, Donald Tusk, for example, the head of the EU Council, by the way, there'll be an EU summit next week where this will no doubt be discussed, has sent a message saying we've done all we can. All the assurances we've been able to give, there will be no more. It's now up to you. It is assumed the European Union will grant some kind of extension, but I would be very doubtful if such an extension doesn't come with some strings attached. For example, a strict time limit and perhaps some other additional conditions on allowing this process to go forward. They don't want to give the UK more time just to have more of this stuff go on day in, day out, more party nonsense, more backbench troublemaking. They want the UK in their own words, to come up with a solution which they can then consider. But that, I think, is how this week will now play out.
Simon, thank you. Simon McGregor-Wood in Westminster there. Well, the drama unfolded at around 7:30 UK time this evening when MPs came back into the House of Commons in London to give their verdict on this second version of the new improved deal that Theresa May put before them. Let's listen in to what happened as it played out.
The ayes to the right.
The ayes to the right, 242. The noes to the left, 391. So the noes have it, the noes have it. Unlock.
Let's get more from Oliver Patel. Now joins me in the studio, Research Associate and Manager of the UCL European Institute. I guess the problem for Theresa May, and all the predictions were pointing to a loss for her today, is that the EU is saying that it doesn't want to budge on the concessions it's already given her.
Because Theresa May lost this vote by so much, by 149, there's no way in which she can go back to the EU and say, if you just give me this one little thing, I'll win the vote. She would need to win over something like 75 MPs. It's not going to happen with any kind of concession at this stage, any kind of concession that the EU is willing to offer. So this deal is probably dead in the water. I say probably because Theresa May is remarkably good at clinging on to things and keeping things going even when it looks like it's all lost. But for now, I don't think this specific deal is going to be salvaged. So I think the most likely outcome for now is an extension of Article 50.
Yeah, she's said all along that you know, the best way to guarantee not having a no-deal Brexit is to vote for this deal. Tomorrow, it's a free vote by MPs, and that means they're going to vote with their conscience. And the question is whether the UK can go for a no-deal Brexit. It doesn't look like they're going to say yes to that.
I mean, the fact that it's a free vote is basically an admission that Theresa May is losing control, losing power. So she's in office but not in power, because her whole Brexit strategy was predicated on the notion that no deal had to be on the table. By giving MPs a free vote, she's letting them basically do what they want. It's no longer matters what her strategy is. So because it's a free vote, it's almost 100% likely that the deal, the MPs will vote against the idea of no deal, and then there will be a vote on whether Article 50 should be extended. It would be rather paradoxical if MPs voted against no deal, but also voted against extending Article 50, because unless Article 50 is extended, there would be no deal. So I'm pretty convinced that on Thursday, MPs will also vote to extend Article 50.
But even if Article 50 is extended, don't we still face this problem of what we're going to do about the Irish backstop, this border issue between Northern Ireland and Ireland?
I think it would be a stretch to say that extending Article 50 solves the problem. It just buys more time. That's literally it. Nothing substantive or meaningful changes just by extending Article 50. At the moment, the only thing that MPs can agree upon is A, they don't like this deal, and B, they don't like no deal. So in order to avert no deal, they will extend Article 50. But you're right to say that we still don't have any idea what there is a majority for, and until we know that, we don't have any clue what's going to happen with the UK and the EU's relationship for the long term.
So still uncertain times ahead. Oliver, thank you very much indeed for that. Oliver Patel there. Let's get some other news now. Concerns are growing over the safety of the Boeing 737 MAX 8. It follows the crash of an Ethiopian Airlines plane on Sunday, the second fatal accident